Aloha and welcome. I'm Liah Howard, and today we're going to be Psychic Development and Channeling class number 12. We'll be looking at how to combine your psychic abilities such as clairsentience, clairvoyance, telepathy, mediumship, and healing into the psychic session. Thank you all so much for being here. Just a reminder to use your small chat box down. There's a window there, and you can click on Send to Liah Howard, and that will ensure that the message only comes to me, not everyone else. So you see these healing hands, that's the hands of receptivity, of feeling the energy. Not only do we tune into the energy of the guides, the master teachers that are working with us, but we are this week going to learn how to tune into messages and information from the loved ones that have passed over, who people might be receiving messages from, to help them on their path. First, we're going to look at some of the homework for last week and see how you did with reviewing that. We're going to answer some questions. We will then get into the text, the lecture about mediumship, and then we'll do a guided meditation. And we'll have a homework assignment. There's going to be a lot of information shared today, so you might want to have your notebook handy, take some notes. And again, just a reminder, you can always go back once you've registered for one of these classes. You can go back. You can review the class as many times as you wish. And there's going to be certain key points that are queued up on the recording. It'll say meditation. It'll say reference books that you can go to. And if you just want to do the meditation or you want to look up what the homework was or what the books are, then you can do that. So last week, the assignment was to send healing energy to either a plant, person, or animal. And I'm wondering how you did with that. Also, you were to look at the YouTube video on Reiki. Reiki is a form of healing that we discussed. And just so you could learn a little bit about that, sort of as an introduction to getting more in touch with the healing. Then in Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, that's the book that very intricately details the parts of the body, the reason for illnesses, the affirmations to use to counteract the illnesses. You were supposed to memorize 5 of those. I would like you to do another 5 this week. Really work with that, with learning about the parts of the body and the messages associated. And then practice, practice, practice. You must practice doing the readings to get better at them and to get more of a clear communication with your guides. Okay. So the first question is, how can I heal my fear of being responsible for my client's well-being? Ultimately, I think it comes down to realizing that each and every individual, no matter who they are, has their own personal relationship with their own higher self. And that relationship is the one that's in charge of the healing, in charge of the session, in charge of the reading, really. That person, I often feel that people are brought to me that their higher self has a plan for them, and I'm just a part of that plan. One of the things that I've heard is no praise, no blame. If a person gets a really, really great healing session and they can, they come in on crutches and they walk out, I don't get the praise. And if they have a session where they're questioning and they're not happy with it, I don't get the blame. There's a way that their higher self is in charge of what's happening, and oftentimes people might not quite get the healing right then, or they might not quite get the messages that are coming through, but then they integrate, they absorb them, and things change and things shift. But we are not responsible for them. They are souls on their path. You're a part of their path, but you are not the guiding force in their life. Everyone has their own intuition, their own higher self that they're working with. And whenever you have that fear come up, just ask that person's higher self or higher power or higher source or God's self or whatever help to guide and to direct. I practiced self-healing last week like you suggested. Good. And now I want to send healing to my mother in a nursing home 3,000 miles away. Do I just imagine my body and send healing? Okay, well, there's a couple of different ways to do this. We talked last week about being a healing proxy for young children, that the mother can hold the baby, the mother can receive the healing, and it goes into and through the baby. And there was a couple of different situations where you could do healing without asking permission. Certainly if a mother is in a nursing home and she's not able to respond, if you can, ask her, would you like some healing energy sent? And if she cannot, and you feel it's in her highest and best interest, you ask her higher self to accept and receive the healing or not. You can picture your body receiving the healing for her if you're very, very intricately linked, or you can put your hands up like this and send healing. This is my preferred way to send healing to people that are farther away. I picture them, and I picture them right here in front of me, and I picture them with a bright light, and I see a happy smile on their face, and I see them energized and awake and alive and happy and whole. And so you can do that with your mother in the nursing home. And another nice sweet image is to actually picture her in bed and putting a little soft quilt over her, and it's the quilt of well-being, that she is being taken care of, that all is well, that she can relax, and that the healing happens. Remember, we talked last time about stress is the #1 cause of disease. So if we can put that healing quilt on top of her and have her relax, she can receive the healing energy. Here's a quote from Richard Bach. Here is the test. I'm sorry, that should say test, not text. That is a typo. Here's the test to find whether your mission on earth is finished. If you're alive, it isn't. If you're alive, your mission on earth is still not finished. And Richard Bach wrote a number of wonderful books. One of them is Illusion. And if you haven't read it, I highly do recommend it. There's about a feather in there, finding the feather and listening to the signs from your divine higher self. So if you're still here, there's something you're still working on, and hooray for that. And we're going to be learning how to help people who are still here on the earth, who their mission isn't done because they're still here, and how can we help them get back on track and receive messages from loved ones who've passed over. So messages from those who have passed over often come through during a psychic reading. So even though you may just be set up to do a psychic reading for someone, you may suddenly be, in a deep state, and you feel the presence of a loved one for this person. Rather than just scooting them out of the room, what you can do is you can ask the person if they would like to receive a message from them and share it with them. There's often a long, long line of beings who really want to come through and really want to communicate and help. And they delight and they get excited when people like you, who are opening to your psychic abilities, your intuitive abilities, your mediumship abilities, say, yes, I'm here and I would like to deliver that message. It's a wonderful form of service. So this receiving messages from non-physical entities and sharing them with people is a form of mediumship, which is what we're going to be talking about. Mediumship is developing the ability to tune into deceased loved ones and bring forth specific information and messages from them. And they often can be very, very specific. Sometimes they're general as well. So Wikipedia describes mediumship as the power to perceive and communicate with spirits and those in the afterlife. So it's interesting that some people are very, very frightened of mediumship, and I just want to bring this out in the open. But really, if you're not frightened of your great Aunt Gertie while she's sitting in the room, why are you frightened of her when she's without her body? I mean, energetically, it's just a shift in consciousness. It's a change. But that's often what happens. And some of these other words you can see, this includes those who have passed on or over, discarnate souls, deceased loved ones on the other side, entities, and ghosts. As I read those words, see if you had any charge or energy with any of those words, because sometimes we just need to change the word and then we're a little more comfortable, so that we can work with this energy of loved ones on the other side. What's the difference between being psychic and being a medium? There is a difference. I interviewed John Edward for a magazine article that I wrote about him, and one of the things he said to me, which I don't agree with, but that's okay, is that he feels that anybody can be psychic, but mediums are born that way. I believe that anybody can be psychic and anybody can be a medium, and that those are skills and arts and an ability that can be developed. But there is a difference. For example, when I started doing mediumship work, it was actually really after at least 10 years of doing channeling. And that was my conscious choice. I wanted to work with the guides. I wanted to work with the higher ascended master teachers. I didn't want to work with the frequency of loved ones on the other side. I'm in a much different place now. Many, many years have passed. I've been channeling 25 years, and I have found the benefit of really bringing through these messages. And so I think you have to feel ready in yourself to shift that frequency. So a medium focuses on the person and the issues related with the person, such as the events and relationships, but they also focus on the energies connected to that person. In this picture, you can see the two people. There's the relationship between the two people on the earth, and then the other spirit beings that are, some would say, across the rainbow bridge, or there's many different ways of describing in spirit. Mediumship versus channeling. The process of tuning into them is very similar to the channeling technique that has been previously taught. And again, you want to review the prior classes about how do you channel. And again, there is a meditation on my website for that specific process that I've taught in order to get in touch. The aspect of psychic work is called mediumship and requires a little bit different focus or frequency to tune into the spirit being who has passed. So if I'm in trance and I'm connected with my guides, and all of a sudden this energy comes in, it's a loved one, maybe a grandfather wants to come in and share a message with the person, the feeling that I have is of needing to change channels, almost change frequency from that of my guides to that of that individual. And the way that I do that is I say the person's name 3 times. First, I ask the client if they would like to get a message that this energy has come in. And then if they say yes, then I change my frequency to actually tune into that loved one and feel who they are, why they're there, what their message is, and what they want that person to know. And we'll talk more specifically about how I do that so that you can learn to do it as well. And then my guides are still there, kind of overseeing the whole interaction. The psychic serves the client and offers a larger perspective on their life. If the client has an unfinished issue with a deceased relative or friend, it may be affecting the quality of their life, and the psychic session may be an opportunity for some healing and closure. This is often very, very true, that one of the reasons that our loved ones or people that we've had relationship with are still there is because there's something that was left undone, and we as psychics can actually help to assist the communication, the connection, so that the person can actually let them go to wherever they need to go and move on in their own life. So the psychic must be comfortable in dealing with death, their own issues regarding loss, and awe. Okay, can you still see me? Can somebody type in there yes or no? All right. Well, I'm hoping you can see me. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. All right. As psychics, we can serve the non-physical beings in a similar way that we serve our clients. These disembodied souls wish to communicate to their loved ones, and it's hard for them to get through to us. They get really excited when they find somebody who's learned how to channel and how to receive messages from the other dimensions and the other realms, because not that many people are really able to do it well. And so when they get somebody who's done their homework and really has practiced and is very tuned in, it's a joy to them to be able to connect and to share and to help. They see the issues that people are suffering here on the earth, and they want to assist. So it really is a delight for them. So we're serving both that side and this side. And we can tune into their frequency and deliver the messages. And I love this picture. This is a woman who's going through the tunnel, and on the other side, she's meeting a loved one who may be working as a spirit guide to her in this time. We don't know. But you never go through the passage of death and end up alone. You go through the passage of death, and you end up with loved ones. Let's just look briefly at the history of mediumship here in America. The origin of what we now call mediumship dates back to the Fox sisters in New York in 1848 and to the advent of modern American spiritualism. Modern American spiritualism is a wonderful church that is based on really the teachings of mediumship being applied in all of their church services, that it's just a given that loved ones move on and that they're here to help and to assist, and it's a natural part of the service that that's shared. So Mary Todd Lincoln had seances at the White House, and so did President Franklin Roosevelt, also reported to have seances at the White House. Now, imagine today if our president had a seance at the White House, how that would be greeted. You can see things change through time and through history. And scientifically now, there's a lot more information. The whole internet explosion that is happening tends to disconnect people from that purer form of connection. Back then they didn't have TVs, and they were much more tuned into their bodies and to psychic communication because they didn't have the distractions that we have. Here is a modern day medium. His name is John Edward, and John Edward is an interesting medium. He's able to do it on TV. He's able to do it on radio. He's very gifted in being able to keep his inner connection while serving people externally. He used to have a show called Crossing Over, which I thought was great. Now he has a new show called Evolve, which you can click on this website, johnedward.net, and check it out. Teresa Caputo is a medium on her, and she has a show called Long Island Medium. These are sort of modern day mediumships, and how do they work and what do they do. She's very New Yorky and upbeat, and you can watch how she does mediumship as well. Then there's the former supernatural drama, The Ghost Whisperer, with Jessica Love Hewitt, I think is her name. Pretty brown hair, brown eyes, and she portrays a young woman who helps others by delivering messages from those that have passed. The reason I bring these up is because it's now beginning to infiltrate the mass media, that mediumship, ghost whisperer kind of stuff, that it's there, instead of just ignoring it or sort of being a skeptic of it, or not really honoring it. There's beginning to be an honoring. There's still a skepticism. There's still a debunking kind of energy around it. But there is more and more people that are believing in it. So let me just check this one thing. Okay. The present-day spiritualist church defines a spiritualist as one who believes as the basis of his or her religion in the communication between this and the spirit world by means of mediumship, and who endeavors to mold his or her character and conduct in accordance with the highest teachings derived from such communication. So this was written back in 1914, but what a noble goal. That, you know how our guides and angels, they have these really high values and high expanded views of things, that the spiritualist church is actually encouraging people to tune into that. Here's a circle. They sit in circles. This would be called a development circle. This is one of the forms of development that they do, practices, is to sit in circles and to bring through messages and to practice. The present-day spiritualist church defines a medium as one whose organism, think about that, your organism, your body organism, is sensitive to the vibrations from the spirit world, and through whose instrumentality, again, your body is the instrument, intelligences in that world are able to convey messages and produce the phenomena of spiritualism. So there's a way that we tune in our bodies to that frequency, and we can, just as when we channel guides and angels, we can tune into the loved ones that are there and bring through their messages. The present-day spiritualist church have development circles to help people. That was what I had just showed you. And it works with spirit guides and healing. Mediumship messages are shared at all the services. I've even seen children who grow up in that faith sharing messages, and they're really very, very good at it. You can go to www.nsac.org to get more information. There are churches in many of the states, and internationally there are spiritualist churches as well. I think they actually started over in England and then came here. But it's really about prioritizing that spirit connection, that it's not unusual, it's normal and natural. And that's what I like about it. We have a couple of towns, Lilydale, New York, and Casadega, Florida, where the whole communities are made up of psychics and mediums. There may be a societal programming present in your consciousness, either through religious training, mass media, or scientific skepticism, that speaking with spirits is wrong or of the devil, dangerous or not possible. And sometimes this programming is very, very deep. You want to look at this before you actually open to bringing through messages, because if you have fear and you have resistance and you have negative feelings about it, it's going to be hard for you to do. So you kind of want to, if there's a, let's say there's a type of bug that you heard, if you picked up that bug, you would end up with a horrible rash. So you never pick up the bug. And then you do research and you go, oh, that was just a myth that I learned when I was a kid. That bug's okay to pick up. I can hold that bug. I'm not going to get a rash. Then you could do it and it would be easily done. So there might be some research that you could do in understanding about the afterlife and understanding about spirit connection that helps you to bring kind of that unknown element into the known, that you're more comfortable. And just looking at how you were raised and what the beliefs were. It must be neutralized, though, and neutral is where there's no attachment and no aversion. When we're in a neutral place, we're in a place of the centeredness of our soul, and the likes and dislikes, we don't vacillate between I really, really, really like this, I really, really don't like this. There's a way that we see from the soul's perspective of the larger vision. And again, a new and healthy, positive spirit attitude towards spirit can be communicated and developed. So we talked about this briefly, when the fear of the unknown, and usually mediumship is just an unknown. I remember when I was channeling and I was a little wary about entering into doing mediumship. I had fears that, I might channel somebody's sister who had passed, and then I'd get stuck with them, hanging out with them in my aura, and I didn't want to carry that energy. I didn't really realize how strong I am in my own being. I'm in this third dimensional reality. I am the one who has command over this body and the energy around it. And it is by the grace of the divine that they get to communicate with us, and they're very honoring of this. There was a television program called Medium, and Alison Dubois was the actress, but based on Alison Dubois was the real medium, and it brought to light the beneficial effects of a psychic working with the police department in the integration of the paranormal into everyday life. So it's changing, that attitude is changing. Instead of them mediums being kind of out there and whacked out and hearing voices, there's a sense of, wow, there's some real credibility here, and this can be a real tool to use, and particularly in the police department, helping with lots of unsolvable cases. There's so many benefits of mediumship for clients. So I want you to think, whenever you get nervous, focus on service. If you're nervous about entering into this aspect of your psychic work, think about how it might help the client. So you can help heal unresolved issues. Oftentimes there's feelings of guilt or anger or shame or betrayal or grief. These are some very heavy feelings that people are walking around with. Sometimes people are guilty. They feel like, oh, I could have done one more thing, or if I had only, or if I hadn't done something, maybe that person would still be here. Or a pet. Sometimes it's the same feelings that a person might have with a pet. Maybe if I had done this, put them on this medicine, or gone to this surgery or something of that nature, or shut the door and not let them out that night, they wouldn't have been hit by a car or something. So, but the truth is, those feelings of unresolved issues, the beings that move on, they're free of that. They don't hang on to that. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. So we want to help the client move on in their life, and the individual who has passed on to move forward in their spirit as well. So if they see that you're not processing and you're really still stuck, they will stay here to assist. And there is a way that sometimes when a person loses a loved one, sort of their energy, some of their life force energy goes with them, and they lose their commitment to being alive, fully functioning, using their gifts and manifesting the fullness in their life, because some of their energy is gone. So there's a way that we as psychics can look at how present is this person in their body, and can they pull some of their own energy back that went with that person and recapture some of the feelings of love and aliveness and beauty and truth that they experienced with that person here on earth, and bring those forth. And especially we can help the person to reconnect their own life force energy and the gifts in their life to bring those forth. I love this picture. I imagine that this might be the girl's mother, and the mother now has angel wings. And she's standing over her daughter, and she sees her daughter sort of praying and holding the light, and the mother's sending light. So sometimes a change happens in the relationship and a new relationship is established with a deceased loved one. For example, the person who had passed may become a spirit guide or offer support. My channeling teacher, Anne, is on the other side, and she helps me now from that dimension here on the earth. And I just love that. I have a number of other friends that have passed that help to give me insight and wisdom from where they are. There are many fears associated with mediumship, and a lot of this is from the mass media, you know, all the scary. The movie that came out, The Exorcist, I think probably gets top star rating for who scared the most people of being possessed, spirit attachment, or taking on negative energy. So a lesson in mediumship wouldn't be complete without actually addressing these. It is my belief that this possession, attachment, and taking on of negative energy is actually way blown out of proportion, that it does happen, but it doesn't happen very often, that it's actually a rare event rather than a regular event or a frequent event in any way. And generally it would happen with somebody who's not done their psychic work. You've done Class 7, which was all about psychic protection. You know about protecting your space. You know about protecting the client's space. It would be highly unusual for any of this to happen. But you have to get in a positive headspace about it. You know, fear is forgetting everything's all right, F-E-A-R. So you want to come into a place of remembering everything is all right, and this is normal and natural, and you want to be in a frequency of love. I have the Ouija board there because sometimes people like to play around with the Ouija board, and spirit communication is not really an area where you want to play or take it lightly, like at parties and stuff. It's really to be taken with sacredness and with prayer and blessing, and there are negative energies that do hang out, that are looking for an opening. But just like if you don't hang out at bars where you're going to be around people that might be fighting or getting loud or crazy, you wouldn't hang out in that kind of energy etherically either. That's not where you would go. You would go to the higher vibrations of love and light. And so that's important for you to know, that your own personal vibration is going to determine what kind of energy you carry, you draw to you, and you want to be as positive and loving as you can so that you attract positive and loving energy. And if you feel there's any energy that feels negative, you can ask, are you of the light? Remember, we talked about that. If you are not of the light, be gone and vanish. And if you feel that you've done a reading for someone and you can still feel the energy there, that means you did not clear that energy fully. You did not disconnect fully from the being at the end. And you have the ability to do that. And you can, remember we talked about putting the hands together, bringing your hands together, creating a circle of your own energy of light, and releasing and letting go of whoever that is. So these fears, possession, attachment, and negative energy, again, they're very rare. And if a person is kind nature and carries vibration of love, they are automatically protected. Love needs no protection. Love is the highest vibrational frequency that there is. So how can you bring yourself into that frequency, sitting in meditation and bringing your consciousness to that place of purity and that place of stillness and that place that goes beyond the mind and beyond judgment to a place of perfect bliss and peace? Love attracts love. There are ways to shield oneself from lower vibrational energies. You want to ground. Always going to work with grounding, especially if you're bringing in, doing messages from loved ones on the other side who have passed, who come in. You want to be very, very grounded in your body, and you want to invite them in, and you want to be able to have them leave when you ask them to leave. I always do that during a session. I say the person's name 3 times, invite their energy in, give the message, feel what they feel like in my body. I actually do let them come into my body so I can feel what was going on, so that I can tell the client what the person passed from, you know, what illness or injury or what the situation was. That just helps the client to know that you're tuning into the right person. And then when the message has been given to me and I've transmitted it, then I ask them to please go, and I ask them to actually lift up, and I say goodbye to them so that I can get on with the reading. And you can do that as well. So you want to work with the shielding, grounding, working with light, praying, and intending to connect with only the highest and the best. Okay, here's a debate that's out. Are people born a medium, or is this a skill that can be developed? Probably if you ask 50 psychics, you'd get a mixed bag on that, honestly. My experience is that mediumship can be developed, that just like any other skill, it takes a lot of time, energy, practice, and study, but it can be developed. So the first school of thought is that people are born that way, that they're naturally gifted since childhood, who have the ability to see and hear spirits and have spontaneous examples of this happening. What's that one? Barbara Coutreau, the New York one. She says, oh, since she was 4 years old, she was able to see spirits, you know. That doesn't have to be the case, though, in terms of your development, that when you have the willingness and you have the time and you're committed, that you can learn the skill and ability as well, which is the second school of thought that with practice you can learn. It's really the synthesis, to me, that we have a natural ability to be psychic, and tuning into the frequency of beings on the other side, loved ones, is a different, it's almost like a different channel or station than tuning into the frequency of our guides or our angelic helpers. It's a little bit different way that we adjust our energy to feel theirs. So if you think about it, we all have lost loved ones, either family and friends or pets. So we already have available to us connections on the other side of life that we can tune into. I have done many, many, many readings for people who have lost pets. And, you know, I might just be doing a psychic reading and all of a sudden a little dog comes in and I have to interrupt the psychic reading about all the issues in the person's day-to-day life and say, would you like to get a message from this little black dog? And if the person says yes, then I would go ahead and transmit the message. And then the dog usually is like, yay, and then off they go. They've delivered their message. So our pets do stay around us as well as our loved ones. The art of being a clear and accurate medium requires, as I said, practice, hard work, patience, study, and time. Anybody who says this happens overnight, honestly, that's not my experience. That it's a way of learning to communicate. You can open up in a moment, but in terms of perfecting what the communication means, even John Edward, who's, you know, a master at this in his life, when I interviewed him, he says he receives information visually, auditorily, and feeling, and then he has to put that information together and figure out what that message is. That there's a way that his consciousness must process, synthesize the information he's receiving, and then give the message. And that's where the work is. That's where the practice is. And the more that you do it, the better you get at it. A genuine, pure medium is humble, selfless, and dedicated to service, prayerful, meditative, and connected to their heart and higher self. We talked in another class about imbalanced or out of balance psychics, and this can be the case, but I would encourage you as a psychic to be grounded, to be solid in yourself, solid in your spiritual practice, whatever that is. If you have a mala that you work with saying prayers, if you have a meditation, a breathing meditation, if you have a movement meditation, there has to be a way that that psychic and medium is already connected to their own heart and to their higher self. And that way, when that frequency comes in, they're more attuned, and the message will be more pure. It'll be coming from a very humble place of I'm here to serve. That's a much different place than I'm here to impress, or I'm here to build a clientele. It's really from a deeply meditative and prayerful state. If you look up mediumship on the internet, you'll see a lot of information about mediumship through history and some of the saints and master teachers that were able to bring through messages from loved ones, people that they worked with, or their spiritual teachers. So ways that mediums receive information is the clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. You might suddenly get a vision of a person. You might get a vision of that person in a particular place or doing a certain thing. You might actually hear words. and you might just get a feeling. And it's going to be different for different people. Again, we all have a strength and a weakness in terms of how we receive information, but with mediumship, there'll be a way that you can tune in to the loved ones that are on the other side in your own unique way. So clairvoyance being the first one, it's the ability to see spirits who have passed away and objects, places, and situations associated with that person. So a lot of times you'll get a picture and you'll get an object that goes with it, and your job as a psychic is to look at how those two fit together and what the message is for the client. So for example, the medium would see an older woman by a sofa reading a book and get the sense that she is an aunt. So there is a way that you can work with your guides and your higher self and say, okay, if it's a child, they're going to come on this side. And if it's an older or elderly person, they're going to come on this side. And if it's a brother, they're going to be up here. And if it's a sister, they're going to be here. That you can actually ask your spirit guides to work with you to develop a system of communication, so you know when you suddenly get a female's face, what that represents. Is it mother? Is it aunt? Is it sister? Is it coworker? Is it family? Is it friend? And then you get a sense of what the relationship is, and then you get a sense of what the type of connection that it is. So perhaps this woman, the medium, saw an older woman by a sofa reading a book, that the woman actually worked as a librarian and read a lot of books. And so that would be a way to say to the client, you know, I see a woman sitting on the sofa. You could describe what she looks like. And this is where you have to take that leap of faith. If you see a woman sitting on a sofa and you get the feeling she's a grandmother, but she has black hair, and you're like, but it seems like a grandmother would have white hair. That's your rational mind. And I want you to get out of your rational mind and go right to the intuitive and just say what you see. Remember, we're not editing the mail. We're just delivering it. And say, and maybe she had a grandmother who never let her hair go gray, who dyed it to the very end. She was 90 years old and she had this black, dark hair, right? So that's where we want to just be very discerning about the information that we're getting and telling it as we get it. Clairaudience is clear hearing. This is the ability to hear messages from spirits that are in other dimensions. For example, the medium hears the spirit telling them that they have a message for the client, and this may include specific details related to the person that no one else would know. A lot of times, the loved ones that come, they want to give a very specific piece of information so that it's comforting to the person who's receiving the reading, so that they actually know that the person who's doing the reading wouldn't have known that. Like maybe there's a special picture that person had on their wall. It might have been a picture of 2 roses, and the spirit being in the disembodied says, see a picture of 2 roses, and then the person shares that. I see a picture of 2 roses. I hear this spirit being saying that there's a picture of 2 roses, and then that's very comforting and assuring to the person that you have tuned into the frequency of their loved one, and you're not just sort of generally grasping at information, that there's a recognition. So the beings that are on the other side want to be recognized so that they know that they can be more helpful from that place. So be open to getting very specific information and sharing it. And with the hearing, you may hear a song. And you say, you know, I'm hearing this song. I see leaves of green, red roses too. And you say that, and the person just starts to cry because that was their song. That was their favorite song of connection. So really listen inside. Open all of your senses. The next sense that people often use is clairsentience. This is the ability to feel who this being is that's on the other side. And you may feel the pain or pleasure of the spirits who have left their bodies and now are on the other side. You may feel in your body how this person died. If their body got very, very old and arthritic and sore, you may suddenly feel pain in your body just for a minute. Remember, we're not going to hold it. We're just going to feel it long enough so that that being can let you know how they pass, so that you can communicate that, and then the person can feel confident that you are tuned into their loved one. You may get a feeling that comes through, such as taste, smell, or touch. They often like to do this because there might be something special that person ate. Like my father ate a lot of peanut butter. And so that might be a way that if I was having a reading with a psychic medium, that all of a sudden the psychic's saying, I'm tasting a lot of peanut butter, then that would represent my dad to me. And I'd say, yeah, my dad ate a lot of peanut butter. I even remember as a kid, he would say, hide the peanut butter, because he didn't want to eat as much as he did. So there's a way that they can use our senses to tune in as well. For example, the medium would feel a sudden shock or blow to the head when a client's loved one was shot themselves in the head. So there's a way that we can ask to feel how this person passed and just briefly feel it in our body. And a shot to the head often feels very jolting. There's just a sudden, you might hear a loud noise. You might feel that a sort of explosive feeling or get a really strong headache of just pain, horrible pain. And the suddenness of it, the people that have died slowly with kind of a lingering illness, there's a different energy and way that they feel than people who die suddenly, like in a tragic car accident or emergency situation, an aneurysm or an accident of some sort. Those feel much, much different than a suicide. Oftentimes when you're tuning into somebody who's passed with suicide, there's a feeling of deep, deep grief and sadness that was there before the person committed suicide. And so just to tune in on all those levels, and we have talked about that before, but it's just a reminder that your body is the tool that you can use in getting these messages. The medium enters into an altered state of awareness known as a trance, in which beings from the other side communicate messages through the medium's body. This is very similar to the channeling trance. Again, the difference is that they're tuning in on a separate frequency. So for me, it feels like when I'm channeling my guides that I kind of go up and over. And then when I'm channeling a message from a loved one, my guides sit up and over, and then they make room for this other being to come through, share their message, and then leave. This trance is a deeper frequency that enables the medium to interpret more specific information for the client from their loved one. The guides are often working with more specifics about the person's life. When you go into the medium type of a trance, you're often working with the specifics associated with the relationship with that person who passed. So you may get a feeling of joy if it was a really happy connection, and it may be happy and sad. There may be the joy of the connection and the deep, deep sadness of the loss. And you may get a picture of a little girl walking down a hall to an office, and her dad worked in that office, and he used to always call her, "Hi, my sweet darling," and all of a sudden you hear, "Hi, my sweet darling," and you say that, and the person just starts to cry because that's what their daddy had said to them. So you can get very, very specific information, and know that you have that ability. It just takes practice. So a seance, I did want to talk about this because this is in the history of mediumship, is the seance. A medium goes into trance in a semi-dark group environment with the participants sitting in a circle for the purpose of bringing through messages from the other side. So this is an example. These people are dressed real old-fashioned because that was the era in the between 1840 and 1920s. This was the heyday of trances and spiritualism, and lots of people were doing it. Energetically, there's sort of windows of time that open up where this type of connection is stronger, and then windows of time where it closes down a little. So right now we're leaving the Piscean age, and we're entering into the age of Aquarius, which is more about humanity and connection. And I envision people sitting in these circles and connecting not just with the loved ones on the other side, but also with the guides and angels, and perhaps even beings from other dimensions that are here to help as well. So there's different forms of seances. There's, you can have a circle like this, or you could have somebody up on stage and have them tuning in, more kind of a John Edwards sort of thing, where he's up on the stage and he's tuning in and giving messages to people that way. There's many, many different types of spirit communication, and I don't want this to like freak you out or, bring up any fear, but I just want you to know about it, that this is a possibility of something that could happen. Now, when I started channeling back in 1988, I had knocking. No, not like that. That's what it sounded like. That started happening when I was meditating. And yeah, it did freak me out. But what happened was at some point I said to this energy that I couldn't see, that is scaring me, and I don't want you to communicate with me. I want you to communicate directly with me, which is when I opened up to channeling directly, and then shortly after I met my channeling teacher. So it doesn't have to be scary. If we think of knocking as, hello, I'm here, I'd love to communicate with you, instead of, oh, it's going to get me, I'm a victim, I have no power, it's frightening, which is what the TV shows would like to have you believe, that this connection is very, very frightening and you're powerless and, you know, objects are going to start flying around the room. Instead, if the lights start blinking, say, hey, hi, who's there? Do you have a message? Can I help you? If you're watching television and all of a sudden it starts blinking, a lot of times spirit works with electrical stuff because that's a frequency that they can actually affect. There used to be lots in the period of the seances, and historically there was a lot of rapping, knocking, the trumpet would blow, and you'd actually see a trumpet in the room. And I have seen that in life, actually. There's a psychic named Michael Shane who does do the trumpet, and Shayne, if you want to look him up, Michael Shane. And he also works with the spirit manifestation of ectoplasm. He apports things. He brings objects from another dimension into this dimension. He brings rings and jewels and all kinds of things through his body. And he does, well, you should look him up, Michael Shane, Shayne, and see about that. But if one person can do it, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of really learning and tuning into that frequency. Table tipping that was when they would sit around the table and the table would actually start to move. Nobody's moving it, but the energy, the frequency would be so strong that the table would lift or move. So these are just a few levitations. Also, something that's happened with tables lifting or objects lifting. Apportation is things. Apportations like, see this little Mother Mary, if suddenly she started moving across the room without me holding her, that would be an apportation. These are extreme forms of spirit communication. What we're going to be talking about in general with our psychic readings is welcoming the loved one into the space, receiving the message from them, transmitting it to the client, asking them to leave and thanking them, and then moving on with the psychic session. Again, you always want to ask permission from the client. Some people are kind of frightened of, if you say you have a loved one in the room, they just want to head out the door. That is not what they came for. They don't want that information. That is too much too soon. They're not ready for that. They really just wanted to get specifics about their life, where they're going. And so when that happens, you want to ask. If the answer is yes, they would like to receive a message, then you can proceed with tuning into the being. If the answer is no, please respect your client's wishes and do not go there. Just don't. We have dominion over this plane. So if you have a message from somebody, you feel a loving being is there, you say to the person, you know, there's this loving person that's here that wants to give you a message, and they say, no, that scares me, I don't want to do that. You have to honor that, and that being will understand, and maybe a seed was planted, and another time at a later date they will be ready to get that information, but right now they're not, and that's okay. Other clients are like, yay, I can't believe it, I'm so excited. They really, they were almost afraid to ask because they would have maybe thought they would have been disappointed, but then that happens and they're just so happy that you can share that message. So there's the whole spectrum, really. So again, if you get the no, you want to ask internally for the spirit to move back, move on, let them go, and let you get back to the reading. But there may be a way that they have some information that they want to offer to your client. So you want to listen. Is there anything that this person needs to know that you were going to share that I could offer in the session in another way? And maybe there's a warning about this person has a trip on a boat planned and they see a big storm, and they really want the person to know that maybe not a good time to take the boat trip, maybe reschedule. So there's a way that you could work that into the reading without having it be from that person. So you have to feel inside what is highest and best for this individual in this time and tune into that. So for mediumship sessions, it's really important that you spend quiet time meditating before the session. because it's not just tuning into your own guides that you've been working with, that you have developed a rapport and a relationship with, that you're actually learning to hold a larger frequency of energy, because you're holding your own energy with your higher self, and then you're holding the energy of your guides and angels that are there, and then in addition to that, you're holding the energy of this loved one who's there. That's a lot of energy to hold, and you can do it when you're grounded and you're centered and you're clear. So take time to meditate. It's important. It's a really positive way that we can hold a higher frequency of energy. We talked about setting sacred space, and again, especially if we're doing a psychic session where we're bringing through messages from loved ones, we want to have the room clear. I like to light a candle. Whenever somebody passes that I love, I light a candle and I leave the candle lit for 24 hours in honor of them. It feels like their spirit lights it, and it's a way for me to remember that even though I can't see them, that they're in the invisible realm now, but their presence is felt, and the candle reminds me of that. So there's a way that the candles help to bring light. So for the mediumship sessions, always start with calling on your own angels and guides to help with the session. That we want to work with their frequency of love, unconditional love, and presence, and knowledge. We want to be open to receiving messages and impressions from deceased loved ones. And we want to let go. This is really important. I learned this actually from John Edward when I did that interview. He says, I do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of readings, and people come for these large sessions with him, and they come with an idea of who they're going to get a message from. And he's learned to say at the beginning of his session, give up your expectation of who's going to come, because it may not be who you think you're going to get a message from. And you may not even get a message. There may be 200 people in the room, and only 5 of them get messages. And those are the 5 that were most needed to get those messages in that time. And on a spirit level, those beings know who really is most needing that message at that time. And so when somebody comes and they say, I really, my child died 3 years ago and I want to get a message from them, what I would recommend that you say to them is, I'm going to do my best to tune in, but I can't promise that you will get a message specifically from them, because it may not be in that person's highest and best interest. Even John, I read his one book, and he's written a number of books, but in his one book he talked about, I really wanted to connect with my mom after she passed, and she didn't come, and she didn't come, and she didn't come, and it took a number of years for him to actually connect with his mom, and he had some resentment about that. But what he learned was that he had to trust who did come and when the right timing was. Everything is in divine timing, and we may be ready to connect, but they may not for whatever reason. And we don't have to know the reason, and we don't have to know the why. We just have to be open to receiving the information and the energy. And so always be sure when you're tuning in that you're not looking at what that person's expectations are. I think it's better to get less information, to not ask them questions about the person or about the situation, to just go with a nice clean blank slate and see what comes up, so that you are not biased by what they've told you. So you want to invite a loved one to be present and share their energy in the session. So that's, opening up, receiving, you're opening your intuitive self, you're opening your telepathy, your empathy, you're opening your healing ability. There may be some healing that needs to happen with that person. You're opening your clairsentience, which is the feeling. You're opening your clairvoyance, which is the seeing. You're opening your clairaudience to receive the message and communicate it to the client. And it's okay when that being comes in to ask some clarifying questions. What did you mean by this? Can you give me an example? How can I best express what you want? It's okay to communicate and ask these questions. So if you really want to develop as a medium and as a psychic, you have to practice. And honestly, this particular ability of mediumship development is best practiced in a circle with other people, where you can all tune in together. So there's the frequency and the vibration of all the people that are in the circle, plus all the loved ones that are around, and that creates a tremendous amount of energy. And what you can do is you practice doing readings for each other, and different people will come through each time. And there's a sense of confidence building just by having a certain number of people to practice with, and you build up the energy in that time and place. So when you meditate in a regular time and place, and I suggested this way back in class 1, find a special spot to meditate. When you do that with a group and you have a certain seat, so the idea is you get together with a group, and you can create your own group wherever you live around the world, get together with some other people and say, let's connect with our higher self, let's connect with loved ones on the other side. And you sit in the same chair, because every time you go, your guides and your higher self and your loved ones on the other side will go, oh, they're sitting at 11 Main Street, and they're sitting in that chair, and that means they're ready to connect. And they get excited, like, wow, you're taking time. And they make themselves very, very available. And the energy builds and builds and builds. Just like I said, if you wear like a special shawl, like when you're doing mediumship work, if you choose like a special little shawl that you want to wear, and that gives you a feeling of safety and protection, and you only use it when you're doing that, the energy builds up in it, and it makes it easier to go into that deep, deep trance state. So regular practice, both in a group and personally by yourself. And you can do that with working with a tape recorder and getting messages. You can do that with working with a journal and getting messages. But it will get easier if you get feedback from other people. So connecting to those that have died, that have reincarnated. So somebody asked me, they said, well, my dad died, but I really want to connect with him, but I was told that he reincarnated. Can I still connect with him? Yes. Yes. Isn't that amazing? It's hard for our minds to get kind of wrapped around this concept, but when a being passes to the other side, they have the ability to split their energy and inhabit more than one dimension at a time. So part of their consciousness can be in the dimension of your father who has passed over, who's guiding, looking over you and supporting you. And part of their consciousness can be in a new baby body that is learning and growing and learning how to talk and learning how to walk, and that there's not a way that it's limited to only that one dimension. And it's, again, our conscious minds, it's hard for them to expand to include this possibility, but time is not linear. It's more like a sphere. It's more like a sphere. And so with that concept of time, there is a way that consciousness can shift through different doorways. Messages can come at any time and be from people or pets. One never knows when a spirit being will want to share a message. Something may trigger the connection, possibly through holding an item, which is psychometry. My dog passed, and if I hold her leash or her collar, I can feel her energy, and I can more easily get messages from her from the other side. Perhaps there is a certain place that you go. I used to take her to a particular beach, and when I go there, I can feel her energy sort of romping next to me on the beach, and her presence is there because she and I used to go there. And there might be a photo. You look at a picture, and it might be that your client brings you a picture of somebody that has died, and by connecting with the soul of that individual through the photo, you suddenly get a whole download of information about them, about their life, about what happened, about where they are now, and it's a wonderful way. And sometimes just by having a memory of a loved one, here's a little kitten. If you had a wonderful positive experience of that little kitten kind of cuddling up next to you on the pillow, you can feel that, and all of a sudden the kitten's energy and essence comes in with a lot of information. So messages can come at any time. For example, a friend of mine felt the presence of her husband while she was in the bathroom at a hospital. Now, she had to take him there for emergency care. It turns out he had an aneurysm. She was in the bathroom, and she could feel her husband come to her, and his body was right at that moment on the operating table. And yet his consciousness was visiting her in the bathroom of all places. And she basically said to him, get back in your body. It's not time for you to go. Well, he did get back in his body. They did a code blue. They revived him, but then he came back and visited her again, and she was able to say goodbye. And he did end up leaving his body and dying shortly afterwards. So do you have to be sitting in a meditative place to get a message from spirit? No. It can happen any time of the day or night. And oftentimes it happens when we're quietest, just when we wake up in the morning and just before we go to sleep at night. Now, there is a way that you can set certain boundaries with the spirits that you're working with. And just like when you go to work and you punch in, you work 9 to 5, when you're done, and you don't keep bringing your work home. Well, with psychics, it's a little different. It is a little different, but there is a way that you can actually set limits with beings, and you can say, now is not a good time. I hear that you have a message, and we're going to have to schedule that at another time. I'm going to be meditating tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., and that's a much better time to meet me and to give me that message for whomever it is. You may be with another person, and suddenly you get a sense that there's this being there who wants to give a message. You have to really listen inside. Is it in the highest and best interest of this person to receive that message in that moment? And you can say, I feel the presence of maybe a mother or a grandmother. Would you like to get a message? And they can say yes, or they can say no, and you must honor that. So don't just suddenly start spurting out messages to people, is all I'm saying. Give them the opportunity to open to receiving it. Helping the client to let go of their deceased loved one. The psychic can assist the client to understand that their loved one is moving forward on their path, free of the body, regardless of how untimely, unfair, or unjust the death may seem. It may have been a murder. It may have been an accident. It may have been an illness that suddenly came. It may have been something very unexpected, and suddenly the person is without their body. It's not for us to judge how that person passed. I think probably the hardest one to not pass judgment is suicides. And I've done lots and lots of readings for people who have family members who are left behind from individuals who have committed suicide. That's probably the one that's the most difficult to heal. However, if you think of it this way, the love that's there holds the connection, and that being who has passed over is in their right place, or they wouldn't be there. If they were still meant to be here, we're going to go back to that quote from Richard Bach. If they were still meant to be here, their mission isn't finished. If they're not here, their mission is finished, even if to us it looks like it was completely unfinished. On a soul level, the soul knows what the work was, what the purpose was, and knows when it's complete. There's really no accidents that way. The soul does choose. So, and there's many volumes of information written on near-death experiences where people actually were given an opportunity. Well, this is a window. Do you want to go and into the land of spirit and light, or do you want to go back into that body? And usually these people that have chosen to go back into the body say there was kind of a jolt. They came back in and they kind of had to pick up the pieces where they left, but that was their experience. So I want to give this example in terms of letting go of our loved ones who are on the other side. When a parent puts their child on a big school bus to go to kindergarten, I remember putting my oldest daughter on this big, huge yellow bus, and it looked so big, and she looked so little next to the bus. And there she was getting on the bus, and part of me was really delighted that here she was going into a whole new world, a whole new land, that I had done everything I could to prepare her, and it was time for her to move out into the world in a larger way. Part of me was very, very sad that I wasn't going to be able to keep her close and cloistered and protected, and I couldn't control her destiny in the way that I had before. So it was both a happy, excited for her, and a sad for myself that I would miss her. So when our loved ones pass over, it's kind of a similar feeling. There might be a happy, like, oh, they're out of pain, particularly if somebody's been in a lot of pain at the end due to cancer or fibromyalgia, some kind of illness that has really ravished the body or the mind, that you think, oh, good, they're out of pain. I'm grateful for that. But there's also the personal part of, gee, I really miss them being a daily part of my life. I really miss their presence. I miss the feeling that I had when I was with them. So maybe whenever you were with your Uncle John, there was always a feeling of how special you were. And then with the passing of Uncle John, there's sort of that feeling, feels like it went with him. It didn't really, but it might just feel like that. So there's a way that we have to get past our own selfish attachments and agendas and accept the larger picture of what's happening, and to help them to move on into the light. And a lot of work that mediums do is helping beings to go into the light, to go into the light. What if the relationship to the deceased person was negative? Sometimes clients come and they say, I don't want to get a message from my stepfather. He was cruel to me. So they may even experience anxiety or fear associated with an abusive deceased family member or friend or perpetrator. So my experience working with many, 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 many people with messages from the other side is that when individuals merge with their non-physical self, with their higher self, there is a way that they transmute that negative energy. So stories from people who have had near-death experiences share that individuals on the other side of life are no longer in pain, scary, or mean. They seem to have reconnected with their soul self and remember their truest essence of love and service. They are motivated to have healing occur. So there's a lot of information that's available about people who have had crossing over experiences, who reconnected with loved ones on the other side and come back to attest to the fact that, you know, that old blah, 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 this grouchy old SOB is now this guiding light. So the soul knows and the soul remembers the essence. And that's often what happens when the person leaves this body. They kind of forget about all the little details that we get so hung up on, and they go into the larger essence of themselves. So know that just because somebody had a bad or negative relationship, it doesn't mean that the message from that individual is going to be scary or unfriendly. All right, we are going to do a guided meditation. But we'd like you to get comfortable wherever you're sitting. You might want to have a little drink of water. And before we do the meditation, I just want to call on the angels and archangels to be here with us. I want to call on each of you to call on your guide, your main channeling guide, your main spirit guide that you're working with, to join us in what I call sacred space. So if you haven't already lit a candle or lit some incense or sprayed some rose or created sacred space for yourself, envision that happening now, that just like you had a magic wand and you could do that and it would all be created, that you're sitting in this beautiful, safe, sacred space. On the slide you can see that there's 2 pillows. I want you to envision that you're actually sitting on one of those pillows in front of a beautiful altar with a candle. And it's quiet and you hear the soft music in the background. And there's nowhere that you need to go. And there's nothing that you need to do other than to just be here and listen to the sound of my voice and the sound of the soft music as you relax. Take a deep breath in, breathing in peace. And as you exhale, just let go. Let go of any expectations. Let go of any thoughts. Let go of any distractions or any feelings in the body that are anything less than whole and perfect and complete. I know that you deserve to have this time to go within, but this is a gift you're giving yourself because you love yourself and you are worthy of this. And then envision around you a beautiful circle of angels and guides who are just showering you with love. They're so happy that you're taking time to go into the inner temple, the inner sanctuary of your mind and your consciousness and your heart. And feel your heart growing in love as you allow their love to fill you. And I'm going to start with the prayer of protection. Beloved Mother, Father God, Infinite Spirit, we come to you in love. We ask to be filled, surrounded, and protected by the light of the Holy Spirit. We ask to lift beyond earth into areas of absolute truth. We ask that that which is most needed by these souls be brought forth in this time. I ask that we are clear channels for God's love, light, truth, healing and blessing. We stand believing. Thank you, Mother, Father, God, Infinite Spirit. Feel your breathing slowing down. Feel your body resting quietly. Deep inside, your heart is beating at the most perfect rhythm for your body. It is the heartbeat of your soul, ever guiding you, ever nourishing you, ever joining you on this journey. Your body is your most amazing. It's really like your best friend. It's been here from the moment you incarnated, and it'll be here till the moment you disincarnate. So just give thanks right now for your body, this beautiful vehicle. And thank it for all the processing it does with all the foods you take in, and for all the ways that you give it sleep and nourishment and rest, and all the ways that your body takes care of you, bringing you to your job, assisting you in your work, your service. And feel your body, just like when you, there's a way that when you pat a puppy, they just take it into every cell of their being. There's a way that they receive the love. Receive the love right now into your body. Let your body receive your love so that each and every cell of your body starts smiling as you just send love in. The love goes all the way down to your toes, and you feel the cells in your toes smiling. And the smile, this inner smile, goes all through your legs and your back, your buttocks, hips, back of your body, all the way up to your head, through your hands and arms and feet, and especially in your face, feeling a beautiful, bright smile in every cell of your being. You are one with all the love in the universe, and you are rooted and grounded. You are one with all the love in the universe, and you are rooted and grounded. You are one with all the love in the universe, and you are rooted and grounded, and so it is. Feel your aura get even brighter. Now I want you to turn up the brightness volume. Just like on a dimmer switch, you're turning it up, 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 up. Get that frequency very, 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 very bright. High frequency of light in your body. Nice strong grounding cord going down to the center of the earth. Now just scan your body and see if there's any places that need to relax. Send light in. I want you to envision that you're sitting in a beautiful, beautiful temple. It's a small sacred room, similar to the one on the slide that I have here, with two pillows. A pillow for you and a pillow for whom you're going to invite. We're going to take this time to invite a loved one who has passed over to the other side to join you. So first, I would like you to invite them to come right to the top of the room, and then to bring their energy right down to the edge of your aura, and then right there on the pillow next to you, and feel them sitting there. And they may look different than how you imagine. They may, if they were elderly when they passed and they come and they look like they're 30, spirits often do come looking younger and more energetic and more alive than when they passed, because that's more how they identify themselves in that realm. So just see that being And now I want you to look deeply into their eyes. For there is a way that your connection is based on love, and that this love is eternal. Absolutely eternal connection of love. So I want you right now to just let yourself feel the love of this loved one who's passed over, who's still available to you. There may be certain mannerisms that they carry, or a way that they speak or move that's very, very familiar to you. There may be a certain way that they spoke your name or addressed you. I want you to open your senses, your hearing, your inner vision, your inner feeling, your inner telepathy in the third eye, and your inner healing. And get all of these frequencies completely wide open so you can experience the energy of this beautiful loved being who has come in this time and space to connect specifically with you, to offer you a message. So as you sit here, I want you to open your heart to the love that you feel with this individual. And allow that love to flow from your heart to their heart, and from their heart back to your heart. Kind of like that figure 8 of infinity loop. The love is flowing, flowing, flowing. One of the best ways that we connect with loved ones is to allow ourselves to feel how much we love them. To actually let those feelings move through the body. Sometimes there may be tears associated with it. Sometimes there may be some passing grief associated with it because we can't actually touch them in the same way that we touched them before. Just allow that love to be there, strong, powerful, and healing. Feel how happy they are that you have invited them into this time and this space to connect with you interdimensionally. There's no hard feelings if it's been a while. There's no hard feelings if you weren't there when they passed. It's just total and complete love. Unconditional love. That's what this being has come to offer you. Allow yourself to open to that frequency of unconditional love from the spirit world, from the spirit realm. Feel your heart filling with the presence of this being. I'd like you to invite this loved one to give you a message, and it may be a message for you, but it also may be a message for somebody that you know, that they would like to communicate from their heart, through your heart, to that other person. So now ask, do they have a message for you, or do they have a message for someone else? And if it's for someone else, you'll see the face of who it's for, that you may actually get to deliver this message. Okay, you should have gotten a picture now if you were going to receive the message for you or if it was for someone else. So now envision in your heart a fine-tuning of your heart's frequency to their frequency. And just as a translating machine, if you speak into it in Korean and you press English, it comes out in English. And if you speak English and you press Korean, it comes out in Korean. Envision that they are so connected to your heart that they are speaking the language of the heart from where they are through your heart, and out to the other person or to yourself. So just feel your heart frequency. Feel it getting stimulated and growing and opening. And now from their heart to your heart, tune into what this message is. And feel it deeply inside yourself, what the message is. And now envision, if the message was for someone else, what you're going to say to this person. You might want to write it down to get a feeling of what it is. The message may be specifically for you, for something that, a decision you're making, or an area or aspect of your life that needs to be looked at. Receive that message from that beautiful, loving being in spirit. And I want you to thank them for being here. And let them know that you're going to be communicating with them more this week, that you're actually going to be practicing through meditation, connecting with their essence, that there is a way that you want to open and practice, just as if you were learning Spanish, you would practice with a tape, saying the different words and getting the sound and developing the language. You're developing a language of communication with the spirit being. So I want you to thank them for being here and offering their light and wisdom and love. And now feel your energy coming back into yourself with your heart very, very full, and letting them lift up and lifting their energy up to the edge of your aura, and then up to the top of the room, and then releasing their energy from this room and allowing them to go along their path wherever they need to go. And you feeling that heart connection. The heart connection can remain. We're going to let that energetic connection go. Now come back into your heart and picture yourself sitting on this pillow, just like in the slide. You're sitting on the pillow in front of a beautiful altar. You're hearing soft music. And you're feeling very, very grateful that you were given the opportunity to connect with this sweet, sweet being of love and light. Now bringing your energy back in, putting your fingertips together in front of your heart like this. We're closing up the energy field, releasing their energy. Putting your hands together like this, running a circle of energy, bringing your energy back in. And now say to yourself, I release and let go. I release and let go. And feel yourself bringing your energy back into your own self, your own life. And letting them move on, but knowing that a door has been opened for this communication and that you will be connecting more with them. Okay, so you might want to journal a little after what the message was. You can write it down. I want to share with you some reading material that's available. Suggested reading to expand your knowledge of healing, of mediumship. The Big Book of Near-Death Experiences by PMH Atwater. Atwater also has some videos on YouTube that would be worth viewing. The Proof of Heaven by Eben Alexander. He's doing a lot of public showings now, Proof of Heaven. and near-death experiences by PMH Alexander. So these are just 3 examples. There's many, many, many volumes of books available on mediumship, on near-death experiences, on connecting with the other side, on being a spiritualist, on tuning in and tapping into this invisible realm so that it doesn't become scary anymore. It becomes the known. Here's a couple of YouTube videos that you can view. There's the interview with Truth of Heaven author Eben Alexander on afterlifetv.com, and the connection, the URL is there. Or Understanding Mediumship by Diana Witt, who's part of the Spiritualist Church. She also does channeling of Ramana Maharaji. Anyway, you can look that up. And her YouTube video is there in addition to. So for homework this time, I would like you to watch those YouTube videos and to practice receiving a message from a deceased loved one, similar to how we did, but I want you to expand on that and really feel what their message is and really see if there's anything unfinished that you need to communicate to them, or if there's anything unfinished that they need to communicate to you, so that you can feel just the love connection being there, because it's the love that always keeps you connected in the heart. But let go of the attachment. Love and attachment are different. Love can be there, the attachment cannot. And then practice transmitting a message from a deceased loved one to someone else, that you can actually be a vehicle and an agent for the divine to work with you through bringing through messages for other people. It's usually easier to do messages for other people than it is for yourself, you'll find. So kind of jump in there and experience that. And I would like you to journal about your feelings about death and the afterlife, because this will make a difference in your ability to tune in and tap in on this level to the other realms and not have fear, not have old prejudices get in the way. So just write. You might write a letter, Dear Death, this is how I feel about you. And really write it out. And maybe death is going to write back and say, well, this is how I feel about you, and have a little dialogue. Or you might write a letter to some of your loved ones that are on the other side and say, can you tell me a little bit about death? Can you explain to me what it's like, and see what comes through? You might have the experience of writing to your higher self who's already experienced many, many, many lifetimes. Let's say, I don't know how many lifetimes we each experience, but what if we experience 700? So your higher self already knows what that process is like and can coach you on the afterlife or the between life. Savarna Wiley is a wonderful hypnotherapist. She does life between life regressions, where you can actually talk to your soul self in between lifetimes. And her name is Savarna Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, and you can look her up. You can Google her and look up her website. But that might also be a way that you can connect in with your soul self, and in the work of helping others to connect in. When you've had that experience, you're more able to coach somebody else with that between life experience. And I would really like you to believe in your ability as a medium. Whenever you catch yourself saying, I'm not sure I can do it, I want you to say, I can do it. I think I can. I know I can. I can do it. And practice, practice, practice. And that's what's going to make it more real. That's what's going to make it a skill that you can do and that you can get better at. If you were practicing basketball and you kept hitting it outside the hoop, you'd say, I know I can make that shot. I know I can do it. And it's sort of a similar thing with our psychic energy. So we did review the homework. We answered a few questions. We learned about how to expand the psychic abilities to include mediumship, and also integrating those other forms, the Clairsentience, Clairvoyance, and Clairaudience. Remember, our loved ones are still with us, but it's up to us to feel their presence. Sometimes people are afraid, well, if I feel the love of, my little dog that has passed, then it's going to make it harder and sadder, and it's not going to feel good. But the truth is, when you can just feel the love and let go of the attachment, it does feel better. So that's what I want to encourage you with. Practice, practice, practice. Do some practice sessions with your friends, with your family, with your friends of friends, or get so you're at the place where you're really ready to do some more of these mediumship readings. And you may decide that this is the route you want to go, and you really want to just be a medium, or you may decide you want to incorporate mediumship into your readings, or you may even want to do it in a less direct way, and that's fine. But it's going to take practice. So next week, our class is deepening the trance state, and we are going to look at ways that we can go deeper inside so that we get a wonderful clarity of information and messages that come through. So I hope you can join me. And just one final quote. The bitterest tears shed over graves are for words left unsaid and deeds left undone. This was written many, many years ago. She wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. And the bitterest tears shed over graves are for words left unsaid and deeds left undone. Most psychic mediums will tell you that it's those things that weren't said that need to be said in the sessions, or the things that were said that you wish that you hadn't said, that once you say them, you can't take them back. So as psychics, we can help people to heal this, and we can help ourselves by sharing our love with those people that we love, and by doing those deeds, not just saying I love you, but showing people that you love them. And really by showing spirit and your higher self that you love them and you're here to be of service by actually doing service in the world and giving of yourself, giving of your gift, getting beyond any fears or limitations and sharing and bringing your light out into the world. So on that note, I want to wish you all a very, very blessed and happy week. Happy connecting. Keep your heart open. Keep your mind open. And namaste.